Hey guys, it's Drexel Heard here with Political Culture. Tonight we have a very tight race happening in the state of Kentucky right now. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump's incredibly bad week last week and so the latest on the Obamacare out of Washington, D.C. Stay tuned.
You are now tuned in to Black Hollywood Live, Black Tea Party.
Paparazzi, catch my
You guys,
I'm so hyped.
this is that Beyonce.
I'm still on a high.
I was at that concert that
I was at
Saturday.
that
Okay.
I was at that concert.
Okay, well, I wasn't there.
You missed the whole thing.
I'm from Houston,
She
so
had
that's
to watch
fine.
our
We're both
snaps.
from Houston. That's okay.
Were you watching our snaps?
I'm so
You better
hyped.
get information.
I
with
was
the
on
rest of us,
Facebook. I was watching all y'all stuff.
Welcome to Black Hollywood Live's Political
guys.
Culture. I'm your host, Drexel Heard. You can follow me at Drexel Heard. I'm here with my co-host, Elayna.
Hey, you guys can find me on Twitter at Hey It's Lay.
What's going on, guys? You can follow me at Brittany Sorrells.
Oh, well, guys, what an incredible... How was your week, first of all?
You know, I'm still on a high from Saturday, so
I'm still listening to the song. I don't even know what's going on. The song isn't here. I don't even know if it's playing for you guys right now.
Well, I have the album, so that's okay. I was jamming at home while you guys were at the concert.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter at BHL Poli-Sci. Not Poli-Sci. I always write that. Poli-Sci, like political science.
Political science.
BHL Polyculture. And use the hashtag BHLPC to join our
Yes.
conversation. So right now, the Kentucky primary is happening. I'm watching the returns come in. It is like the tightest race
So
that
tell
we've
me.
seen so far. We're looking at the numbers right now. Senator Sanders is leading by less than 0.1% of the vote right
wow.
now. So they really can't call anything.
Right,
Now, it's
yeah.
about 96% in on the vote. There's a couple of counties that haven't come in. Jefferson County, which is Secretary Clinton's largest county, they still have about 22% of the vote that is waiting to come in. So it's likely, hopefully for some people, that it'll flip over here soon. But the results are still coming in. So we'll see. But I mean, Kentucky only has 55 delegates, so they're going to split the delegates anyway.
either way they will.
Either way,
split.
they were going to split.
Yeah.
it.
But after last week, what happens if Bernie walks away with the win for Kentucky?
Nothing happens.
He just wins and then
You know I have to ask that question because I love to see your
Well-
reactions. You're just like, okay, so what?
My
What does it
reaction
have to
is
do
that-
with Hillary?
You know,
Right.
I think. I was having a conversation and Elayna was talking to me just about how she likes to follow me on Facebook. She watches my conversations on Facebook because I get so engaged in people and conversation, the political conversations on Facebook. So absolutely, if you want to tweet at me, absolutely, we will have a
we
conversation.
will entertain you.
Listen.
Especially
We'll
Drexel.
go at it in a
Drexel
respectful way.
gets so heated. It's like pure entertainment. And he responds within 5 seconds, folks. So just go ahead and at him.
Listen, it's because I'm sitting at my computer, whether or not I'm at home, whether or not I'm on my phone. You know when you have like so many devices and it's all bling, bling, blinging?
Right.
And you're like, well, you know what? First of all, I don't like red bubbles. So I like to get them. I like to get it away pretty quickly. But we were talking about, at a point we talked about it a couple weeks ago, where realism versus optimism comes in.
Right.
And I mean, I think at this point, Clinton is 143 delegates away. Tonight she's going to walk away with 25, which puts her at 120 something delegates, just over 120 something delegates. I calculated that.
I was like, that's good math.
As fast as I could. Liberal arts majors. We don't do math.
Yeah.
College algebra was it.
Literally had to take
Freshman
2 math
year.
classes.
Literally, I was saying,
That was
after
it.
my freshman year.
But that's the reality of the situation. So if Senator Sanders is not, we saw West Virginia last week where, he won coal country. I think what's really striking is the demographics that he's winning.
Right.
Which is great for Democrats. Not necessarily great for Democrats in the sense of they're not going to win coal voters in the first place. West Virginia, he won last week. He won all the coal counties in Kentucky tonight, and Clinton won the bigger cities. But there were a lot of really uncommitted voters in Kentucky because what happens is you have to be committed. You have to stay on the voter rolls at some point, but you either have to be registered Democrat or registered Republican. But you can not vote for a president in the primary.
Right.
And in almost all of the Sanders counties that he won tonight, he there was about 15 to 20% uncommitted voters who did not want to vote for Clinton or Sanders, and that's huge. Whereas you saw in the Clinton counties, the margin was a lot smaller. So I think we'll see what happens tonight. Regardless, if Sanders wins Kentucky, I think he'll pull a win in Oregon. I mean, I've always counted Oregon out of the Clinton column. It's so close to Washington D.C. Washington State, where Bernie Sanders won earlier this in the primary season. So I think we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, I really think it's mathematically over. I don't even think the Sanders perspective is we can switch superdelegates, because even if he won the state of California, Clinton is at 9. He has 900 delegates to try to
that he's behind in.
That he's that he needs.
Right.
He has 900 delegates. California only has 500 delegates. He's not going to get all 500 delegates. They'll split the delegates of California, and you can see that across the state. Yeah, once you're staying in a race this long, you're never going to win blowout races like you would at the beginning, because people are starting to get to know you. People are starting to kind of focus in on who they want, and you're never going to have a blowout like you had at the beginning of the primaries.
I think he might have come to terms with it a bit. I feel like at this point in the race, he's in it to almost prove a point, because he's almost trying not to renege on his word, because he did say he's in it for the long haul. So he's trying to show us that I told you that this is what I was going to do and this is what I'm doing. So although we have the math, and I know that he knows the math, and I know that his team is telling him the math. So the only thing that I can think of, if my team is coming to me and telling me, hey, you're not going to be able to get the delegates, the math is this, I'm like, okay, I might, because I said I was going to finish, I'm going to finish. I'm like, if we don't get it, we don't get it. Right,
but then you take a look at how the campaign has managed their time over these past couple of weeks, and we saw just a little bit of that out of Nevada. Nevada was months ago, and this weekend they had their state Democratic Caucus, where they were they had some unpledged delegates that they needed to kind of reallocate and do all that. Clinton ended up walking out of that caucus with 7 extra delegates. Bernie Sanders ended up leaving with 5. Right. But in that entire situation, and hopefully we can get the video up to kind of show you guys, there were a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters there, but there was a lot of chaos happening in Nevada. Yeah. And at what point, and I had this was the conversation that I think Elayna saw earlier. This was at what point does a campaign that, especially at a presidential level, step in and say, we hear you, we absolutely understand your frustration, we absolutely understand your anger, but what's happening at these state conventions,
we don't condone it.
We cannot condone that, nor can we condone what's happening in what may potentially happen at the national level in Philadelphia. So I don't know if you guys saw the Sanders response today, but I've always felt that the campaign has been very slow to respond to their supporters. Do you guys think that a campaign is responsible on some level for their voters?
Yes and no.
Supporters.
Yes and no. Because I can't control everything you say or what you do about how you feel about politics or how you feel about the campaign. However, I can lead you and guide you and let you know that because you're representing me, because this is because you want to vote for me or because you represent me, then we don't condone that. So I would, if I were in Senator Sanders' position, I would have made a statement prior to the one that he recently released. Before that, I would have made a statement saying, we don't speak that kind of way, or we don't act that kind of way. I don't support it. If you choose to, that's that's up to you, but it's not what I represent. What was disappointing about what happened in Nevada is the fact that it reminded me a lot of the Donald Trump supporters. Yes. And that made me sad. That made me sad. So even with the conversation that you had on Facebook today, if that conversation was had in person, we don't know how heated it would have got. We don't know.
I like to stay very calm in person.
Right.
I'm sure it would have been very calm from my side. I don't know.
The other person could have been yelling or getting in your face, going extreme, and you have no control over that.
Right.
So
But conversations are fine. Having heated conversations are fine.
Right.
But when you are death threats to the chairman or to the chair James is our engineer, guys, and he's the best. Hey,
James.
But you're actively doing death threats to the chairperson. You're booing a very popular United States senator from California right before the California primary.
Right.
Like, you want to get people excited, you want to get people engaged, and I just don't think that is the way to get people involved or want to respect that, because and I said this earlier in the in my conversation, is you are running to lead the party.
Right.
You need the state parties to want to help you.
Yeah.
So if you are actively trying to sue the state party, trying to sue the national party, trying to go after these people whose backing that you do need, I just don't know how you don't make a statement of saying, listen, everybody calm down for just a second.
Right. We're on the same team.
And you brought up a good point. We talked about this last week, is that we can agree to disagree. And I think that a lot of the supporters are forgetting that, especially with Trump's. I mean, his is just disgusting to even watch and see that. But to see that at Bernie's thing was very surprising, that, voters were just acting crazy. Very shocking. So...
and the White House had actually come out with their statement today, the press secretary, Josh Ernst, and saying the president on a number of occasions has spoken out against violence and has certainly said a political dispute like this can never be used to justify violence or a threat of violence. They practically shut down the convention,
right?
To the point where Sanders supporters were like, "Oh, well, they brought in the troops, not the troops, the state troopers to kind of
to keep it calm,
keep it calm, and they started kicking people out. But you can't expect them not to kick you out if you are disrupting a state function." And Senator the Sanders campaign tried to sue the state party.
Right.
The judge tossed it out, saying, "Hey, listen, we cannot get in the middle of inter-party disputes."
I think what also got disappointing with that was with everyone who was who were there just causing a ruckus. A lot of them said that if Clinton was to be nominated, that they wouldn't vote for her, and I think that's what's sad. So it was not only was it sad that that it broke out into chaos, it was also sad that we couldn't be supportive of, the Clinton campaign. Like, no matter who you're going for, it shouldn't have gotten that rowdy. And we're in the same party.
Right.
At the end of the day, we're on the same team. You might not like me, but you should respect me.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's what was hard to watch. That's what was hard to hear about.
Do you think typically Democratic voters outvote Republicans in the general election?
Right.
We've seen it. We saw it in 2000. We saw it in 2008. Not in 2004, 2008, 2012, obviously, when Barack Obama won. A lot of the supporters that Senator Sanders, and I definitely want to know what you guys think too, a lot of the supporters that Senator Sanders has brought in weren't there in those elections. They're just starting this process. Do you think it's going to make a huge difference? Like, we want people to be engaged, obviously, in this process. But do you think that it's going to hurt either one of the presumptive nominees in the general election, just based on numbers alone?
I think, if anything, it might just hurt Senator Sanders, which he shouldn't want, any more. Like, he shouldn't want that negativity. He shouldn't want anything that's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to hurt him because there are a lot of people who are split. There are people who don't want to vote for Senator Sanders or Hillary Clinton. So with what's happening, they might be swayed more toward Hillary Clinton because of the incidents. Because people looked at Bernie Sanders as this light, as the one who
he was the white light.
Right, the
white hat. He was like
he was like
what's her name?
Olivia Pope.
He was Olivia Pope. I won't say he was Olivia.
No, he wasn't. He
wore a white hat. I will give Senator Sanders that.
He could have been, yeah.
And I think that this campaign definitely, and I said this, a friend of mine said this earlier to me, and he was just like, I think it just went boop, take a left turn.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was Senator Sanders. I think that was the people around him. And I always say that just about President Bush, George W. Bush. He ran a campaign in 2000 as a compassionate conservative, and that was as we started to see his presidency move along, that was far from what he originally ran on in 2000. And I think that's why it was very close. You had a sitting vice president running against a Texas governor who people didn't really know, only as the son of the president, of former president. So But the people around him, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, a lot of these, even to the point Condoleezza Rice, who was a lot smarter than Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, are calling these shots. So I think that you are only a leader is only as good as the people around him, and I think that Jeff Weaver and to some extent Tad Devine might be influencing Bernie Sanders to where he probably didn't expect to go when he first started this campaign.
Right. I'm sure he's sad about it. I'm sure the events that happen is depressing for him.
And the thing about it is that realistic, like we talked about with numbers with him, is that he's already not doing good in the polls. So to get this happening too is kind of like it's really sad to see that, and he can't afford to have these type of things happen. You know what I mean? And so to see that, it was just, I know it's pretty heartbreaking for him.
I don't want. Sorry, I'm like everything's buzzing around me because I'm hoping that they're about to call this election right now. But I'm hoping that Senator Sanders has been a part of this Democratic caucus forever, and I hope for him. And particularly for the state of Vermont, because you cannot be an effective senator if the people around you are not including you.
Right.
And so I hope that it does not exclude him. And I had a conversation where I said I believe that for all of the ideals that he's pushing in this campaign, if he continues on the way that he is going, somebody else will pick up the mantle, and progressive Democrats will listen to that person as a calming voice, but talking to you in a way that might not be as exciting but it is saying, here is the way that we need to approach this.
Right.
And I think that's going to be Elizabeth Warren.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. Just an update. Clinton pulls in the lead, so she's probably about 1,000, just less than 1,000 votes over Senator Sanders out of Kentucky right now. Oregon is about to close their polls here, probably in about 45 minutes or so. Oregon has 74 delegates. Like I said, I don't think he's going to win. I think Senator Sanders is going to pull out that win there, and they'll probably likely split those delegates in Oregon as well. But on the other side of the aisle, and then California has their primary here on June 7th. So if you're a California voter, make sure you vote, or make sure you register vote by May 23rd, or you cannot vote. Or let me just say it. You cannot vote in the Democratic primary if you are not a registered voter by
May 23rd.
Yeah.
Great. So we've got California, Montana, Jersey, D.C., New Mexico, South Dakota coming up. But here in California, they've kind of split these endorsements so far. And I say split because the San Francisco Chronicle kind of had a piece out on Senator Sanders last week talking about how engaged he is in San Francisco politics right now, how he's engaged that side or that part of our state, and where is Secretary Clinton? Is she going to step up to come to San Francisco? Which I believe she. I mean, why wouldn't she? It's a huge city in California. There's no reason why she wouldn't go there. But the LA Times here endorsed Secretary Clinton, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens in California. At the end of the day, it's a blue state anyway. It's going to go to the Democrat. I don't think Donald Trump is going to win that state. But speaking of Donald Trump, I don't know if you guys watched last week. Or if you guys were...
Oh, Trump.
I think Trump, he's my favorite. He's better than Sarah Palin.
Really?
I meant he's better than Sarah Palin to watch run.
Oh, yeah, entertaining. Oh, yeah,
he's very entertaining to run because you never know. Like Sarah Palin, you never knew what was going to come out of her mouth.
She was hilarious.
And if you watched Game Change, which comes on HBO all the time, like you could see, like what happened in that campaign and how crazy she actually was. But I cannot imagine what is happening on the Trump side. So last week he started the week hanging out with Paul Ryan and meeting with the GOP leadership. But did you guys see the press conference after that? Like he was all like, "We're great." Paul Ryan came out and was like, "We're working.
Right.
Yeah.
We're unifying." But I'm still not going to endorse him.
Yep.
That's what Paul Ryan said. And I don't know what's going to happen to the Republican Party if the two leaders cannot come together. They can't have a stalemate if, hypothetically speaking, if Donald Trump was the president. The Congress and the Speaker of the House the Speaker of the House and the President of the United States just cannot be at odds.
Yeah, they have to be on the
because
same team.
nothing would happen. And I also don't think that Paul Ryan would. First of all, he'd be voted out of the speakership, which he's in a primary right now, and Sarah Palin's out there banging the gavel around saying that she's going to support the his primary challenger. But do you guys think that at some point, like, who do you guys think would have more clout in Washington?
Do you see the smirk on my face?
I know.
Like, every time, and more recently, because at first I thought that Trump was just pure entertainment, but now he's actually really annoying.
Yeah.
So every time when I saw that him and Paul Ryan were hanging out, I was like, oh, next.
And I say hanging out very loosely.
Right, like when they had a meeting,
Right,
when they had an
lightly.
association ship.
Right, right.
However that works, I literally rolled my eyes and I was like, okay, next, because I'm really not here for the games that Trump is playing anymore. And I knew that he was going to say something ridiculous or that was not entirely true, and he did, and I was just like, I'm not surprised. So I'm not even laughing at him anymore. I think it happened after Cinco de Mayo.
But do you think that we should continue to take? I mean, we have to take Trump seriously. He's the presumptive nominee of the party. But I am waiting on the other shoe to drop because no candidate is walking. I mean, I'm waiting on his 47. I'm not even waiting on. I don't even know because he's had so many 47%. If you guys remember Mitt Romney, like there was that little tape and
Right.
But he's had so many of those moments, and obviously I don't think that's going to. I don't know if you guys. But I don't think that's going to change his supporters' minds. But I don't think it's going to help him in the general election, even though we saw those 3 battleground states. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, where there was some tight polling, but I just don't know how that's gonna work.
I'm sorry, pinch me.
Yeah, it's real. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Trump, and I don't know what's scarier, like him or the fact that there's people out there that actually like are endorsing him and
Ride or
supporting
die.
him. Like I seen that the PayPal CEO endorsed him and backed him up, and I'm just like, y'all.
Which is
actually...
weird considering that PayPal pulled out of North Carolina for discriminatory.
The remarks in
HB2 bill,
yeah.
So that's very odd.
Yeah,
I did not hear that.
Yes, and so for that, I'm just like, y'all are actually believing what he's saying, or y'all just like...
Do you think they believe what they say, or do you think they just dislike Hillary Clinton so much that they... No, I mean, seriously, that they dislike Hillary Clinton so much that they would say, you know what? I'm just going to vote for Donald Trump.
Honestly,
I won't even use the misogyny
route
word,
of it.
right.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with Hillary Clinton. I think it's. I think that there's this guy who has a microphone and he has a platform and he literally can say anything out of his mouth, and most of the things that he's saying are some of the things that people in their houses are afraid to say. So he's that voice for them. So they're just like, yeah, Donald Trump, like, you know.
No, those people in their houses are saying it. They're just not saying it outside their houses.
They're not saying it publicly.
Right.
So the fact that he has this platform and he can say it publicly, they're all for Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping is that, you know, in a general election that this hype of his falls down, but he's pure, like he's like he's reality.
He is
But
reality.
yes. And I don't say I get it. I almost said I get it. I understand. But here's the thing. Like I said with Trump is that he was a businessman,
right?
And so a lot of business people are getting behind, and I think that's where they're trying to go. Like, oh, well, we need a person that's had business to you know run the country, which I just think is like, yeah, but you know,
Right.
so.
Well, and to your point about people saying things that they want to say, Donald Trump's butler, that was another story. It was like the Trump-Ryan thing, and then his former butler came out and just had this kind of crazy Facebook rant.
I didn't hear anything about his butler. Tell me.
what?
First, his butler like wrote a book or something like that, and then he had this rant on Facebook, and I'm just gonna kind of, his name is Anthony Peters Cynical.
The rant was about Donald.
The rant was about Donald Trump, supporting Donald Trump.
Okay.
And he says, he talks about, you know, taking a shot at the president, putting him up on the balcony. He says, the so-called elite who are nothing but common, he says, the so-called elite who are nothing but common dog turds from your front lawn are shaking in their boots because there's a new sheriff coming into town and the corruption of the American people. And then he talked about Hillary Clinton, calling her Hillary Clinton or that commie Bernie Sanders. Like, I mean, he just went in on everybody. But I think the FBI or the Secret Service stepped in because he talked about, like, you can't make direct threats to the president of the United States in public. Like, why would you say that in public? Like, it's
Is this the
Facebook.
Butler talking?
It's the Butler. He thought he was included, the Butler, too.
My response would literally be Obama's shade that he threw during the Rutgers commencement speech. I would literally just cue that on his comment section of the rant
And just be done.
Right.
and walk out.
So you've got, so now the Trump campaign has had to kind of deal with the Butler issue and trying to backtrack, being like, he's not an employee of ours anymore.
Right.
Like, we condone those comments. Obviously, you can't, but it was almost like a half, like, we can't condone it, but we can't control everything that our supporters say, type thing. And then he had the publicist thing where
with the video
where he was trying to pretend like, years ago that he wasn't the publicist talking, but we're like, dude, that's you.
That's your voice.
That's you on the
that
phone.
literally is your voice.
Like, who are you trying to fool? I don't understand. So there was a lot of so I think we're going to continue to see these bombshells like pop out of nowhere. At least with Hillary Clinton, everything is out there at this point. Like, the only thing that's not out there are those 2 transcripts that people keep trying to find
of the email.
No, her Goldman Sachs transcripts. So that's really, like, we've known Hillary Clinton for 25 years. What else do you have?
Exactly.
With Bernie Sanders, you're like, okay, well, we don't know him, but I can't imagine that there's some, like, big old Donald Trump, like, stupidity out there.
Right.
Like, that's just not going to happen. It just does not happen with Democrats. The only time it happened with Democrats was when we had John Edwards.
Well, Trump,
at least recently, John Edwards.
if the election doesn't work out for you, you can always go into comedy.
Or you can always come here. You can always come here and we'll interview.
Oh,
Yes!
And we'll just have a good old time.
my God.
Speaking of turning to the general election, real quick, we've got, like I mentioned before, some recent polls out of, what was it? It was Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania. Battleground states all had Secretary Clinton and Donald Trump neck and neck.
Right.
But here's the thing, and you guys can try, like tell me, maybe I'm just wrong, but I don't think that the demographics of a general election at all favor Donald Trump. Like, you look at Ohio, it's a swing state. Ohio has some big cities. Obama won Ohio both times. But I don't think that they're going to necessarily vote for Donald Trump. I don't think independents are going to vote for Donald Trump. They would rather not vote. And if they do vote for anybody, they're going to vote for Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania is not going to vote for Donald Trump. That's like
Not
a
at
blue
all.
state,
Yeah.
even though they're neck and neck. And I think right now there's so much negativity on Hillary Clinton that, like we said last week, her unfavorables are going to be very low.
I mean, I'm smiling because, if they don't,
She's happy Donald Trump doesn't win any of
right,
these states.
that he's not going to win any of these states, that makes me happy. However, I can relate because if you guys recall, we had a conversation and I was saying, I'm torn and I don't stand for anyone. There's no one that I stand for, so I can relate to them. And if I had to go vote tomorrow, I probably just wouldn't vote for anyone. I definitely wouldn't vote for Trump. So I can understand that. Whether or not he swings a few of them to vote for him, that's questionable because they're all blue states. I count him out.
Well, I mean, Ohio's a swing state, and Florida has always been kind of a toss-up.
Yeah.
They have a crazy governor in Rick Scott down there. They had Marco Rubio.
And their passive voting has just, been very...
Yeah, I mean, and of course the 2000 count, but Barack Obama, of course, run, both of those states. I mean, in these last 2 elections. So I don't think that... But Florida is also heavily Latino, a Latino state, just like California, just like Nevada, just like New York. And I think that people, like we talk about, and I say we always talk about the white vote and the black vote, the African American vote. But the Latino vote is so large.
Yeah.
And the idea that Latinos are going to go out there and vote for Donald Trump, I just don't think it's going to happen. And you see it with Bernie Sanders as well. You cannot win without a huge voting bloc.
Yeah.
You cannot win without African Americans. You cannot win without the Latinos, and you definitely cannot win without women. 50% of the population,
Right.
50% of the population. So, I don't think that those. I think that those numbers are going to come in, obviously, in favor of whoever the Democratic nominee is going to be.
I agree with that.
So we'll see. what happens over there. And then we've obviously got the battleground states across the nation. I think the electoral college map favors the Democrats regardless at 190 something, going in with 190 some odd electoral votes out of 270. But one of the interesting things that happened last week, I don't know if you guys saw, was Ben Carson. I don't know where he came
Ben.
from. I know.
I was going to say, where does Ben?
Where does he ever come from?
It was like when I was at the Beyonce concert and Snoop Dogg came out, and I was like, what crypt did he come out of? Like, what crypt did they pull him out of? And Ben Carson probably came out of the same place, because I don't know. He was asleep with him, just in the crypt. They just came out. But Ben Carson came out last week. He was doing an interview, and we talked a few weeks ago about who we thought the vice presidential picks are going to be.
Right.
Well, now that Donald Trump is pretty much the presumptive nominee, he probably has a window about this small to kind of pick his person. Because I think that as you go into the general election, you need to go in with as much momentum. And I think with Donald Trump being as loopy as he is, he needs somebody standing next to him that's going to be the voice on his campaign. So Ben Carson, I don't know if you guys remember what names we showed out last week, but Ben Carson came out with his
he did come up.
His five names. Well, he came out with his 5 names that he said the campaign told him. Of course, Ben Carson also couldn't remember that he ran for president, but we'll let that go.
Because he has the inside. You know?
He said John Kasich, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Sarah Palin, Chris Christie. Now, yeah, why Sarah Palin?
Okay.
Because she came out and she endorsed Trump, and she was just like, I'm all for him, and she wants to be a part of the bandwagon so bad. And
but she's a little loopy. I mean, he might as well
She
said
is
Michelle.
loopy.
He might as
She's not a
well
little
said, he might as well
loopy.
said
Just stay in
Michelle
Alaska
Bachmann.
and-
Like, you just start calling out crazy names. Michelle Bachmann, Dick Cheney. Just come on back, Dick. You know, just I don't know.
or Donald Trump might just put his publicist's name on there and act like
He
it's
could.
a different
He'll
person.
just-
Wait a minute, I read it. Just
Oh,
saying.
my
Maybe
goodness.
he'll have his daughter Ivanka, who does so well for him on the trail. I don't know if you guys seen Ivanka on the trail. No, I'm serious. Ivanka Trump is the brains of the Trump operation, just business wise.
Right.
I'm going to say, I hope not, though.
Just
Yeah,
business-wise.
yeah.
But I think that it's going to be down to Chris Christie, Jan Brewer from Arizona, Newt Gingrich, Joni Ernst from Iowa, and John Kasich.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to have to pick a woman, a female candidate, especially if like Hillary Clinton comes out of left field and is like, oh, I'm going to pick Elizabeth Warren.
Right.
Or Bernie Sanders is like, I'm going to pick Elizabeth Warren. But Jan Brewer, you know, she had that finger wagging moment in Arizona when the president touched. I don't know if you guys remember it. Like, president touched down in Arizona a couple years ago, and she was like in his face, or I don't know. Her finger was wagging. That was the photo that everybody kind of showed. But she also kind of struck down some of their same-sex marriage laws down in Arizona. So I don't know. She could be like that potential like dark horse candidate that nobody's talking about right now.
Right.
Chris Christie, obviously, you know, he's been waiting in the wings.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm going to
He's
go
on-
with it. I think that might be the selection that they go with. Is either Chris Christie, probably.
Yeah, but do you guys think that a lot of his scandals like Bridgegate and, you know, the fact that, you know, he's in a blue state, you know, that, I mean, he really hasn't really been an effective governor out of New Jersey.
He's been really quiet, like on standby.
Yeah.
And I don't think that
He's
I don't even think that he
waiting for it.
believes-
He's like waiting for his moment. He's
that
just kind of like
that won't be good balance, because for Trump is so overbearing, like he's just so much that, like, if he were to choose him, his voice would almost be quiet. It's like, okay, you're just there to be there, like
So you don't think that him being just having a cool demeanor will calm Trump down?
not
to
at
be,
all.
like,
I feel like
balanced?
he'll get run over.
He
Really?
will. But, and that's funny you say that, because there was an article in the Times, some Politico or is it the Times, something like that, that talked about how just in these top two candidates, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, that whoever the VP is going to be is just going to be like the side note.
Yeah.
You've got Donald Trump with this big personality, and then you've got the former first lady and her former president husband, you know, who also has a big personality, kind of running over. And Hillary Clinton basically has already said, you know, we're going to use Bill Clinton to help us revitalize the economy a little bit. So, you know, I think whoever the vice presidential picks are going to be, they're going to be, at least for the Democrats, I think they're going to be more of a standard bearer, like, hey, here's your turn, your turn's in the wings, it's coming up, but we just need you for like 8 years for a little bit to kind of do your time. Or on the Republican side, it's like, how do we help build?
Did we hear him throw in, like, he just went from one election to the next? He just automatically claimed it.
Right.
He just automatically claimed it for
years.
You know, we said a few years ago when the Republicans were kind of going through their Tea Party-esque situation, where we said, the Republicans really can't win an general election until kind of 2020, just based on demographics. So I say 8 years just because of what I said back in 2012 and 2010. Like, the Republican Party is imploding, and I think you've seen that implode with Donald Trump. Like, they just cannot. If they lose, when they lose in November, they will not recover from that for a little while.
They're going to have to do a lot of reconstructing.
They've been trying.
Yeah.
I mean, they came up with a whole plan a few years ago, being like, we're going to be more inclusive, we're going to be inclusive to minorities, we're going to talk about, and then they just completely,
They said that and did nothing.
I was
and
did
nothing that they.
And they fired, and I don't know if you guys know this, and they fired every black top person at the RNC, like, resigned, like, left. Mm-hmm. How can you be inclusive if all your black people are gone?
Or even, did they keep any minorities at all?
I don't know, just not just black people. Was it Latinos? Was it?
No. I think no, and then I think we'll see with Donald Trump, because all of his people will leave you too. I don't even think there's a black.
Well, he has friends who make some taco bowls.
Except Ben Carson, is that what you said?
Yeah. Ben Carson will be running the RNC half asleep.
Exactly.
And
he just needs to stick to surgery. He's awesome at surgery. That's it.
He's hilarious.
Lots of things. So we'll see what happens. We're still watching the results from Kentucky, but I think the networks are calling Hillary Clinton the apparent winner because it's like less than 0.4%.
Yeah,
she's less than 4% ahead, 99% of the results in. She's up by like 2,000 votes right now. So she'll probably win the Kentucky. But like I said, it won't even make much of a difference because she'll split those delegates anyway. But we will stay. I'll stay on Oregon if, you guys will see it on Twitter, and we'll follow that. But last week, something big happened in the Supreme Court, Elayna.
Right. Oh my gosh. So for this segment of For the Record, we're going to be talking about what happened last week in the Supreme Court. Basically, the federal judge ruled in favor of the House of Republicans, saying that the Obamacare and the healthcare reform is basically unconstitutional. And that was surprising because Obama has seemed to have been fighting this since he created it as a law in 2010. Yeah. So it's sad to see this go back and forth because we really don't know what's going to happen. And it was interesting to see the federal judge rule in his favor. So basically, if you aren't aware, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, their main focus is providing Americans with access to affordable health insurance. And there are a lot of pros and cons with that. Like a pro is that, people who had smaller paying jobs or who were unemployed were able to have health insurance. If anyone had pre-existing conditions, they can now be approved for health insurance or be looked at and see a doctor. Some of the cons were that, tax money were going up for some of the conservatives, or people would just have to put out more. Or if you didn't have health insurance, now you would be fined for it. So that's some of the things that we have been talking about. But what was interesting about that is apparently the Obama administration went around Congress and used federal funds to pay off the insurance companies. And that's what's happening in that's what they're fighting and they're going back and forth with in the Supreme Court now. And before I go into it a little bit more, I'm really curious to know, what do you guys think? Do you think that with the Obama administration going around Congress to use those federal funds for the insurance companies, do you think that's constitutional or unconstitutional? Use our Twitter, BHL Polyculture, and the hashtag BHLPC to let me know. The Obama administration clapped back with that, and they basically said that they clapped back, and they were like,
they do.
They always clap, like they're like the shady queens. They were basically like, they're doing everything by the books, and that people need to find a new topic to hate on. That literally is what they said
from the podium,
right?
They don't care.
Standing at the podium, find something new to hate on because we did everything the way that we were supposed to, but it turns out that they might have not, which is why the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the House of Republicans. I know
the House of Representatives?
The House of Representatives.
I was like, the House of Cards.
It's okay. I've been watching too much Netflix. Don't worry about me. What a lot of people have been concerned about, though, is because you know that this is an election year, so Obama will be out, and it seems as though he will be fighting this until his very last day as the president. So most people are concerned, okay, if I do have Obamacare, what's going to happen to me and what's going to happen to my insurance? And the great part about that is because there is an Affordable Care Act, that is law. So you're not going to lose your insurance as soon as he leaves office. It's going to be a lot of back and forth before anything major happens with that. The thing to look forward to or to be hopeful about is that we do get a Democratic president who would likely keep most of it going. So I guess we'll just have to, stay tuned and see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you look at it from an object, like obviously, I'm a supporter of the president.
Right.
However, there is a constitutional, there is a constitutional line between what the executive branch can do and what the legislative branch can do. Yeah. And the legislative branch is the only appropriator of money. But once you've appropriated that money, I think that the fine line is when you've appropriated that money to the executive branch can do whatever they want with the money. And I assume that's what the Obama administration was saying.
Right.
And I think that eventually, it probably wasn't like line item, but like, oh, we're going to do it for this. We're going to do it for this. Because, it's like when you get a check. Like, you're like, listen, I know that I got to pay my rent and I got to pay this.
I got to do this.
But I might use some of that money to buy Beyonce tickets, or I might use some of that money.
or just get the album and stay at home.
Or I might buy Tidal for a day and then not do it. But I think that we'll see what the Supreme Court says, because the Supreme Court has already ruled in favor of the Affordable Care Act in so many ways.
Right.
And I think the Obama administration is a lot smarter than their counterparts in the legislative branch. They have not won. The House of Representatives has just not beat the Obama administration on anything.
Right.
In this entire election, whether or not it's social issues, they definitely haven't won social issues, and they certainly have not won anything on the Affordable Care Act, and I think that's why they're really holding out on Merrick Garland still.
I think that's what's so funny about it, though. Like, they're nitpicking to see what they can fight.
Just so he can lose.
Just so that he can lose.
Just so that Barack Obama can have a black mark, no pun intended, on his.
Like, they've been talking about the Obamacare since they first, like you said, they've been talking about it for a long time. It's just like, it's old. I mean, even since the beginning.
But what's crazy is that a majority of the senators and congressmen who are against the Affordable Care Act, they're in states that absolutely need healthcare.
Right.
Of course.
And their people are loving it. Kentucky Connect, love it. These people are loving it.
Yeah.
Georgia, Alabama, those are the people that absolutely need health care the most, and they are always voting against the needs of their constituents.
They basically don't want him to leave anything behind. They don't want him to have no signature achievement because he pushed for this so hard.
Yeah,
it's like, let's take that away from him.
Right.
So I guess we'll have to stay tuned to see what happens with that, and hopefully it'll be all good and everyone can keep their health insurance, and it would rule in favor of the Obama administration. With that,
what do you guys think is out of this entire, obviously we'll continue to talk about Barack Obama over the next a few months before he leaves.
Right.
But so far, what do you guys think has been his biggest achievement thus far?
Just one.
I know, right?
Been so many.
It really has.
Just one.
I mean, just the fact that he's cut the deficit for America in half, you know what I mean? That's a huge deal. And on top of that, knowing that he took on so much already from Bush, and of course they wanted to blame Obama for everything. So him just handling that, I think that's huge. And just being able to be the bigger person and just handle the issues and the mess, I want to say another word, the mess that he was left,
His grace.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would like to see the Obamacare go far. And I say that because I was one of those children who had health insurance and then didn't have it after my parents, so I had to get it on my own. Getting it on your own while you are an undergraduate in college and etc. That's tough. So when the option came, without having to go on Medicare and stuff in Florida, that's what it is. So for this to come out and for me to have an option to have health insurance, that's big because I know so many people who are without.
Right.
So I think not that that's the biggest, that's the greatest, but that's the most humble like he's the job as a president is to look out for the people, and in that way, he looked out for all of us.
Definitely done that.
You know,
yes,
and
for sure.
I respect that. I just
Yeah, I mean, obviously Obamacare, I think, has been a signature achievement of the administration. But I also think that, first of all, his first 100 days were like out the gate.
Yeah.
Lily
Yeah.
Ledbetter
Running,
Act.
very hard.
There was just so much happening within the first 100 days. And he passed a budget bill, which they have not passed since then. Mm-hmm. So, but I also look at, there have been some foreign policy mistakes, Libya and even to the extent of his drone program, and even to the extent of kind of not pulling troops back as fast or putting them back in and being like, oh, okay, what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. But I think overall, he has been a popular president when it comes to working with other countries, working with other nations. Look, him and President Putin might not have a great relationship, but they are two people that probably respect the fact that they don't like each other, but they know that they're doing what they need to do for their country.
even when we talked about him going to Cuba and trying to, fix the relationship
that was a
there.
huge deal.
That was huge.
That was huge. You've got
nobody was able to go down there. Like.
He slapped China with sanctions and then struck a deal with them on climate change. Like, who does that?
Right.
Exactly.
And now he's headed to Japan to go to Hiroshima, and so I think that his biggest achievement has been pulling America out of this rut, foreign policy wise, and taking it back and saying, listen, America will continue to lead, but we are going to do it with you.
Yeah.
We have problems domestically just like you do. We are working on them, but obviously we cannot do that without X, Y, and Z because we have other things that bring us together, like climate change, like ISIS, like coming together and making those things happen. So
and that he's so personable. I mean, everybody, I don't say everybody loves him, but everybody loves Obama because you get to really, you see him and his family out about and really, being relatable to the people.
Right.
And then
His endurance has been great too. Like the endurance to fight all that he's been having to fight.
Right.
He's done it with grace. Like,
and I think his other greatest achievement is, because Black Don't Crack, is staying. I don't know. Michelle just doesn't.
Oh,
Michelle just got better looking.
Get on Michelle.
Right.
And then he did that. But like I said, we'll continue to talk about President Obama over the next few months. But I think B's got the trending topics.
Yes, outside of the bubble, it's been a lot going on this week, guys. So first off, I want to talk about Venezuela. They are in a state of emergency. The leader, Nicholas, just announced that. They're going to be doing a 60-day state of emergency, and the conditions there in their country are horrible. I mean, the economy has collapsed. It's declining oil prices, and their conditions are just getting worse. I know a lot of people are out there boycotting and stuff like that. So though they are definitely in our prayers about that, and I know a lot of chaos has been going on. I know Obama's going to be speaking about that and just what we can do to help them during this time. The other one is that Colombia, I don't know if you heard about this, but they had the biggest drug bust in history in the world.
I read it when you sent it, and I was like, I want to know about this.
They found 18,000 pounds of cocaine there. The military there found it, and that's
where was it?
It was there in it was in this home, and they had like a connecting what was it, I guess like a safe house or something away, and they just went in there. The military raided it, and they found the 18,000 pounds just.
So they must have been trailing them for a while,
a long time.
Yeah, to have just gone
just to go in there. Just I know exactly.
Did they find El Chapo? That's what
El Chapo, I know.
Is he still out there? Is he still running around? They got him.
We got him.
I wonder who they were distributing to.
Probably everywhere. 18,000 pounds.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to be. I mean, and of course, I don't want to say like Colombia, but I mean, that amount, and for them to push that amount through all these pipelines and stuff through America, through all these other countries, that's crazy. And they had to be paper trailing that for that long to have 18,000 pounds, Right. So, and lastly, Janet Jackson, she is pregnant at 50. So
that's amazing.
Really?
That's amazing. It's scary. But
and she celebrated her 50th birthday. Was it yesterday? Day before yesterday?
Yeah, she just celebrated her birthday. And, we look at 50-year-olds as grandmas. But I think it's amazing because as I get older, I don't want to have to worry about my maternal clock. I don't want to have to worry about when I'll be able to have a baby or not. So
I'm
to
completely out
know
of this conversation.
to know that Janet Jackson is 50 years old and pregnant, it's like, okay, you know, I got a lot of time.
Okay, 50 still young, because my
people
mom
are
still looks good. My mom looks great at 50.
People are still, you know, they're staying alive more. You know, that's why they're trying to raise the retirement age, because people are just not dying off as fast. That sounds terrible to say. They're just not dying off as fast as they used to.
Right.
And so I am excited for Janet and
Healthy
her
lifestyle people. Healthy
her
lifestyle.
billionaire husband that she has.
She might not be able to breathe. With that
Breathe
nose.
again.
Oh, that's so wrong. No, but the spin to that is that the Obama administration is trying to basically have her pay off that fee from the 2004 infamous
The nip slip.
the nip slip that happened at the Super Bowl, and that's what is
are
the
they
fine?
teaming up with the FCC?
$550,000
fine.
That's a lot of
and
money.
it's like she already got. Okay, first of all, she was already publicly embarrassed about the world when that happened.
Right.
But you
Was
know.
she, though?
Yes, for sure. But the thing about it is that they already had dismissed that, you know, way back in 2004. And so for the Obama administration to come out of nowhere and was like, you know what? No, you're going to pay this fine. It's kind of like, hey,
What
where'd they pull this up at?
What concerns me though is why are we going back to this? That's
Yeah,
literally.
But did they never pay the fine?
Well, no, it got dismissed. So she never
dismissed.
paid. She never paid. And so that's something they basically felt the need to pull it back up and do further investigation to see if she needs to pay that fine. I'm like, what is there to investigate? Justin Timberlake pulled the thing and she wasn't supposed to pull it.
It had nothing to do with her. If that fine came to me, I would politely give it to my stylist. Like, hey, you put me in this
She's married to a
position.
billionaire, so he's probably like, it's okay, right?
Right.
I mean, write the check, dude.
Write the check.
But
and
it's
get it
been
over with.
over a decade.
Yeah, I
This
don't
is
know.
true.
I don't know. I haven't heard the story,
Yes.
so I'd be interested to see what the FCC has to
It's a
say. Like,
16-year,
why
like, come on. I mean, what is there more to
I'm
talk
sure
about?
no one
Or
remembers what her nipples look like.
that baby
I mean, it's
will.
Miss Jackson. If you're nasty. I mean, you say.
Oh
Miss
my
Jackson.
God. We just went off the rails. We were just talking about.
Outside the bubble, people.
Whoa.
Outside the
Outside
bubble.
the bubble. That is a
It
true
went-
topic going on outside the bubble around the world.
Well, with that said, that is all the time that we have today. I am so excited that you guys tuned into this episode. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at BHL Polyculture. You can find me, Elayna, at Hey It's Lay.
You can find me at B Sorrells.
You can find me at Drexel Heard.
One thing to remember, that May 23rd is the last day to register to vote. So in California.
In
So
California.
make sure,
Yes.
so make sure you get out and do that. And until next time, bye.
See you later.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio, Instagram at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.